Welcome to Sky Island Church. Today I'm going to be speaking about sin and atonement, but probably no fire and brimstone and probably no hell except the one we're capable of creating here by ourselves. Thank you very much. I will be quoting a Catholic and a Jewish writer, so it's somewhat Judeo-Christian, but there will be a Unitarian Universalist bent. And I found them very helpful in thinking about ways to make change, to make repair. So welcome, and I believe it is Sunday, Sierra Vista, Sky Island Church. Welcome all.
Good morning, I'm your facilitator, Jim Gillum. I had to read that. Yes, it is spelled right. Yeah. I am your facilitator for today's service. First, please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. Please excuse me while I do that. That would be bad. If you have an announcement for now or a joy or sorrow to read a bit later, please fill out the forms that are on the table in the back, and someone will bring them up to me. I want to welcome everyone here in person and those on Zoom. In fact, if you're willing and able, please rise first and turn in your seats. Wave at the people on Zoom. Welcome everyone. As Becky always says, it's better here. It is. If you're new here, please ask any one of us how to access our website or find out how to get involved in our activities. If you'd like to receive our newsletter, please ask any one of us to put your name on our email list and you'll get it next Friday. We do have a few announcements. Freethinkers will meet today at 1 o'clock out in the community room. Tina will have office hours at the usual time, 11:30 to 1:30 this Tuesday, June 30th. Please feel free to text, email, or call her to set up an appointment so you won't have to wait. If you don't hear back from her within a few hours, text her. That's the best way to reach her. Next Sunday, July 5th, that's my grandparents' anniversary. We will have a class for those interested in finding out more about Sky Island and Unitarian Universalism. If you'd like to become a member after that meeting, we will have you sign our book during worship on July 19th. Also next week on July 5th, Reverend Tina will have up the sheets for each of this year's monthly worship themes for you to write ideas, topics, readings, songs that you think might fit them. If you looked at this week's newsletter, the monthly themes were included. So if you take a look, be thinking about something that you might like to see included, and we'll look at getting that done. The sign-up sheets, they're not sign-up sheets. The sheets for you to write down that information will be posted next week out in the community room.
A wish list.
It's a wish list of things that you would like to see. Yeah. That's it for announcements. Announcement time is over. As Reverend Tina lights the chalice, I hope you will listen to these words from UU Minister Reverend Lynn Cox about ways to heal and repair. At the end, there will be a moment of silence. 30 moments of silence, actually. Spirit of life, hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of shifting light and dark. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Lead us to reach out to others in compassion. Turn us toward one another in mercy, right relationship, and reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and to repair them whenever possible. Help us understand our interdependence, our gravitational relatedness with all of the other spinning lives around us, and lead us to treat those relationships with care. In this space, filled with the people among us who shine like stars, this space filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment to be together. May our senses be open to the beauty of this day, this season, this world. We continue our contemplation in silence. Blessed be. Oh, back in the 90s, when there was still such a thing happening in the schools, Bird Baylor came out to our school and read some of her books to our kids. One is the one that she read that I remember was called Everyone Needs a Stone, or Everyone Needs a Rock, and it's about a kid, several people finding rocks, different rocks, and the connection, and that every rock is special, and that the meeting of the person to their rock is a special event. She, like Tina said, lived in Aravaca in an adobe house without electricity, even in the 1990s, not the 1890s. So I remember meeting her. It was quite a special thing. So that's a joy. We are a caring congregation, and we share what gives us joy and what weighs heavily on our hearts. I will read the joys and sorrows that I have here, and I'm actually going to hijack this part of the service, and if the committee, the worship committee objects, they're free to punish me by not asking me to ever facilitate again. I'll put a stone in the bowl for each joy and each sorrow. Are there any more in the back? No? Okay. Julia Jones has, she didn't label it, but I'm pretty sure this is super joy. The stork finally arrived on Friday. He brought her a new grandson, weight 8.5 pounds. Yeah. Where's Julia? What's his name? Azariah? Azariah. And she says, don't blame her for the name. I love that name. He'll be the only one in his class.
He'll be called Azzy.
From Tricia Giardet, a joy. It has been a joy watching FIFA clips and wonderful, exciting surprise wins. It has been an embarrassment, though, watching the treatment of the Iran team. Shame on the U.S. and on FIFA for this.
And Iran wrote really sweet notes in response.
Yes, the team was very supportive. They wrote some notes thanking the people that were doing the right thing. It wasn't all bad. They were, yeah. This is a sorrow for the victims of the earthquakes in Venezuela and elsewhere. Oh my gosh, this is two sorrows. That's the first one. The second, The second is for the Haitians and Syrians losing their asylum status. And there is a joy. It's been 1 year since Karen and Django have been in Sierra Vista. And since you're joining us on the board, I'm guessing that you guys are here to stay. Oh, good. We're glad to have you. So this is the part where I'm going to, well, let me put in some more stones for the joys and sorrows that were not spoken, but that are held in our hearts. And this is the part where I'm going to hijack the service. So last Sunday was our board meeting, and it was the last board meeting for two of our members that will be leaving the board, but still will be doing work for the church. And I wanted to say thank you to them. Georgia Brown is here. If you'd come up, please. Surprise. Teach you to volunteer. Well, we realize that, and you have probably the most difficult job of all. So she was the secretary and treasury. Two worst jobs, not even most difficult, worst jobs. I mean, the two most rewarding jobs on the board. So this is a little thank you from us. It's a bag. Enjoy your bag, your plain nondescript bag. The other member leaving is not here with us physically today, but is on Zoom. So Molly Lou Smith has been on the board for 4 years. I think 3 years. 3 years as member at large, and we want to thank you for her service. So, no, she didn't get a bag. She got a box. So, Molly Lou, this is your box. It'll be in the office waiting for you. And in all seriousness, the board really does thank you for all of the work that you did. Secretary, it's just the way that the board operates. It's usually at a minimum of 3 people speaking all at the same time. Sometimes all 8 of us. And it was Georgia's job to sort that out and to type it up and put it in a recognizable format that kind of indicates that sometimes we get stuff done.
Today's sermon sounds like a bad joke. What happens when a Catholic doctor, a Jewish rabbi, and a wannabe Unitarian Universalist gather at my desk? Really, I feel like I've been in a bar talking with the doctor and the rabbi all week. They've been really good company as I think about reparations. I met the doctor because I found a book titled To Repair the World. And I thought, wow, what a great book this must be. It'll give me all the answers I need. Well, it turned out repairing the world is complex, and his focus was a little more narrow than I'd hoped, but actually really helpful. His name was Dr. Paul Farmer, and he died in 2022 at the age of 62, far too young. But he was very active trying to bring better health care to Rwanda and Haiti, and sometimes Peru. And he was very caught up in a type of theology in the Catholic Church that I like, liberation theology, where he believed that Jesus says in Matthew, what you do for the least of these, feeding me, visiting me in prison, visiting me when I'm sick, giving me water, giving me food, you do for me. And liberation theology talks about preferential treatment for the poor, that God is on the side of the poor because the powerful already have power, right? There kind of needs to be a little reimagining. And he feels we have gone far from bringing our incredible technology and strides forward in medical techniques to the rest of the world, and especially the poorest parts of it. So he really worked on that, and the book I read was full of college and medical school and public health graduation speeches, encouraging them to move forward and to wake up and face what the world required of them. The second person is Rabbi Danya Rutenberg. And again, another great title, On Repentance and Repair. And this book was our Unitarian Universalist SIUU the Read, a book we all read together in 23, 24. So I thought that had to be an amazing book. Maybe that would have all the answers. And it's actually quite wonderful because she looks at Maimonides, who was a Jewish philosopher of the 12th century, who came up with 12 steps to seek repair, to seek repentance. And she translates them for the 21st century in a really beautiful way. I found it very encouraging. And what I liked about both of these authors is they did something I had done in seminary myself. In my seminary, we had to write a position paper. I've talked to you about it before. This is the sentence I stand on for my beliefs. And there are all these components you can put together in whatever order. And my seminary was pretty universalist, so a friend of mine became Wiccan, and as long as she could, explain it in a logical way, and she could stand on her position in a way that made sense, she could be Wiccan. I later went to a Methodist seminary to finish, and you couldn't really there. You had to kind of toe the line, but UCCers are pretty loosey-goosey, are great. And in my position paper, I put the pieces together in a certain way. So you look at something Christians often call revelation. We call our sources. It's how we know what we know, how we make sense of the world. For some, it's how do we understand God? For us, it's more how do we understand existence, what matters? And so that's things like sacred texts from different traditions that we value, earth-centered religions, humanism, science, direct experience. Those are all the ways we make sense and know. Christians might emphasize this particular text called the Bible a little more, but we're open to a variety of texts. So that's one of the ways, one of those components that I was supposed to address. And most people started with something beautiful like creation, or how is the world made, or how did we get here? Not me. My picture for today really should have been an empty concrete pad with a little flower growing up out of it. I started with a concrete pad, right? My position was, though the world is broken, with care, resurrections are possible. And the care was, the worry that keeps you up at night, the love that guides you, actually doing something with your hands. I like that word. Doing something to we are called upon. How Unitarian was I, right? We are called upon to try to ease the suffering and bring healing. And it is possible new life might happen. When I looked at it this week, I thought, reparations might be possible too. So I started with sin, or the brokenness of the world, right? Now, how can a person who no longer believes in original sin want to talk about atonement, reparations, restitution? Because I think human beings, while not inherently flawed from birth, original sinners, do make mistakes. Last night I tripped and fell and threw cocoa all over my laptop. I spilled the tea, yeah. So luckily, you know, as Jim said, isn't it good we don't throw out technology? And somehow the slides were somewhere in the cyberspace, so I could reconstruct stuff. But what if I had done that to someone else's laptop, right? Think of all the things, and far worse, that we do to each other just because we're human and we don't know, we don't understand. Later we realize we should have understood but didn't clearly. Forgiveness, reparation, restitution, all of those things are really important. And Rabbi Rutenberg really convinced me that her pattern makes sense. But both of them start with the brokenness of the world. You might say sin. Paul Farmer, in one of his speeches, it's called General Anesthesia for the Young Doctor's Soul, and he gave it in 2001 to the Brown Medical School commencement. He talked to them about, well, first of all, I'll ask you the question. Does anyone here remember what was said by the speaker at your high school graduation?
Oh, no.
You do? Oh, yay, Wally. What about college? Can anyone remember college? I can't even remember who spoke. I know who spoke at my sister's high school graduation because Susan Ford was in her class. So President Ford, I know he said she told him to keep it brief. That's all I remember, right? There's a kind of amnesia that happens. So he always starts his talks by saying some version of how he's panicking about writing it. How can he help them remember it? How can it be memorable? He's going to get kind of forceful. And in one talk, another talk, in that talk, of course, he says, there's a kind of anesthesia we fall into that's okay if you've been working late nights or you've just come home from a lab, but you can't keep it up all the time. You have to start to be aware of what's happening in the world. And he was really upset about the commodification of medical care. The fact that you have to always pay for services, and that there were actual reports that listed it is far more cost-effective to do preventative measures for AIDS than to treat people with AIDS. Okay, that's true, right? But then you can sign, if you just cover the cost-effective method, you can sign millions of people to death who already have AIDS, right? You can talk about this, but you have to realize there's a real world out there with people who are trying to get medical care. And he made the mistake, or had the great luck, to have a residency and internship, just a summer of volunteering in Haiti. And then he got the Haiti bug and went back all his life. He also went to Rwanda. And when the earthquake happened in Haiti in 2010, his colleagues in Rwanda, who never had enough money, gathered money for Haiti because they were doing projects together to try to bring health care. He even built an amazing hospital in a pretty remote part of Haiti that didn't even exist in Port-au-Prince, but he was trying really hard to bring care to real people whose major problem was lack of food, poverty, diseases like cholera that we have kept at bay in other parts of the hemisphere and the world. And some of that cholera may have come from peacekeeping forces from Africa, whole new strains. So much of what happens isn't exactly a group of people's fault, and it isn't cost effective to help them. But he wanted to wake up young doctors from the sleep, the comfort, the ease we all fall into just to stay sane sometimes, right? If you see this inequity and you don't know how to address it, well, sometimes you do fall back to sleep. He has a lovely story and another address that he calls not road rage, but road angst. Let's see, sorry about this. It printed all out in different ways. Maybe I can find it here. Anyway, a young man had just graduated from seminary in the 1700s, in the 18th century, and he'd won a preaching award in Latin, preaching about slavery. And he was heading off to a new position, a new life, clearly blessed, clearly a star. And on the way, he started listening to his own sermon. He started thinking about, oh my goodness, what is slavery about? And he sat by the side of the road munching on a piece of grass with his horse staring at him, thinking and thinking. And he realized, if this really exists, somebody has to do something to end this horrible disaster. Guess who that somebody was, he finally realized. And he spent years working with others to do that. This is what happens when you wake up. It isn't always convenient, right? Isn't it great when you can go back to sleep? But once your eyes are opened, you tend to have nightmares when you do that. So he was saying, face what is difficult, because that's how you know it needs to be changed. Rabbi Rutenberg says, you must face what is difficult first to start to repair something when you've hurt somebody. First, Maimonides says, you name and you own your harm. You confess it. Now, sometimes you can't go to the person you've hurt and confess it to them. You might traumatize them more. You know, you have to understand what situation they're in. But before you go to them, you have to think through what you did and the implications of it. You have to spend time with it. As we say in today's parlance, you have to do your work, right? So saying it out loud and confessing it in some way. During the Me Too movement, there were some men who actually said, yes, I did the things of which I'm accused. Some of them actually had started to reach out to people and try to make reparations, but they didn't just do it as a sudden, brief announcement guided by their PR team. They had really thought it through, and it had started to change them. So you name it, as painful and difficult as it is. And then you, like, I need to keep my cocoa in something contained. My husband doesn't have to remind me. This is the second computer I've killed in 20 years. You have to own what you've done. But then when you start to change, Maimonides has this great example of, or understanding of when you've really changed. It's when that situation comes around again and you choose to act differently. You choose to act better. The Tiago de Chardin actually talks about letting yourself be kind of haunted by it, so the next time it comes around, you can decide to do something different. And so for him, that is complete. For Maimonides, that's complete transformation. But then there's step 3, which is, under step 2, the transformation, sometimes you have to move from where you are. You may not be ready to take on a new activity if you've done it badly in the past. A young man who used to abuse his male partners wonders if he should tell his new partner that he used to do that. He always was controlling, and now he might be being controlling again. Maybe he should wait to have someone move in with him. Maybe we need more time than we think to be transformed. And then step 3, we actually go and talk to the person and apologize, but only if we, when someone comes to you and they're making an apology and they're in your face and they don't show how they've changed at all, do you like that apology? One woman describes an abuser called her in the middle of the night because he was in a 12-step program. It was time for him to make amends. He never asked her if that was a good time. He told her she had to forgive him. She got him off the phone. She didn't want to hear his voice. And later she texted him back and said, "I don't forgive you." You have to think of the person you're reaching out to, right? The one who's been harmed. After you've figured out some of what you've done, you have to listen to them. And you have to make sure it is in the right way for them. Maybe they don't ever want to see you again. Maybe they don't ever want to hear your voice. Maybe a little text or email might be the way to start. And then step 3 is doing restitution, accepting consequences. And Maimonides says if you physically hurt somebody, you have to pay damages for the injury, for the pain, the medical costs, the time away from work, and the humiliation. That makes some sense, right? Would that we did that more often. Yeah. And you apologize, and then step 5 is when it comes round again, you make different choices as much as you can. Now, this isn't just about our relationship one-on-one. It's about bigger things that have happened in our country. Institutions can really let us down and hurt us. And they often pressure people to forgive. They don't go through the steps of repentance very well. Whole countries do this. So in Canada, Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister, apologized to the First Nations people, the Indigenous people, for both the boarding school system that had killed thousands of Indigenous youth, and for the foster care system that had also taken them away from their culture. Very soon after, despite promising money and projects, the Canadian government wanted to put oil right through land and wouldn't be stopped. You have to show that you're different, that you've really understood. And when institutions hurt you, people are more likely to be traumatized, to have PTSD, to attempt suicide. When institutions like the church that you have trusted does this, the institution better take you seriously. Now, there's an amazing hospital, sorry, I've got to find it, yes. The University of Michigan Health System, in 2001, Richard Boothman, who was there, started a new way to deal with unanticipated patient outcomes, right? So if something went wrong, they immediately went and tried to figure it out. He said litigating a case for 3 years and telling everybody, don't talk about it, don't change anything, is immoral and counterproductive. He wanted his organization to defend good care and to seek to always find out what had gone wrong, to make it better so that they could respond differently the next time round. And, not surprisingly, they have better outcomes doing this. Rabbi Rutenberg says that this policy of investigation, apology, compensation, cut the lawsuits in half, but also the whole process exemplified a really good way to make amends. You accepted that you'd done this, you tried to change, you listened to people, you made a difference, you chose differently in future. They didn't know it, but they were following Maimonides. Wouldn't it be great if more institutions did that? And I wondered, how could we bring together my two friends from this week, Dr. Farmer and Rabbi Rutenberg? How do we walk through these stages of change in a way that really will make a difference in the world? So for me, there are multiple problems out there. We need better housing, right? We need more access to health care in this country. Millions of people just lost Obamacare this week. And so those are two issues. How we treat migrants. I bet each one of you has how we deal with climate change and climate justice. I bet there's an issue that each one of you would want to take up. On July 18th, Reverend Jamili's church, the UU Church of Tucson, is going to gather a group of people who have different focuses. So some focus healthcare, some immigration. They're going to see if there's a way they could work together. What are constructive things we could do to make different choices in future? And I open it up to all of you because the only way to stay awake and be sane is to hear some hope, right? Does anyone here have some small thing they're doing to try to repair the world that they're willing to share?
Chris, this is a tiny thing we're doing. Tuesday will be 1 year. When we first moved here, our backyard had an oleander plant and a tree and a stump. So we planted 11 plants that hummingbirds, butterflies, and bees would enjoy, and they're thriving.
Do you still have your oleander?
Yes. In fact, a dove is nesting on the ladder next to the oleander, ready to give birth.
Oh, wow, nice. It's a great little hedge, but Richard's over here.
Once I got out of the military, I started to become more aware about things that I do, like habits I have. And just as an example, when I used to shave, the water was running. Now I'm in the habit of not doing that.
Not
shaving.
shaving.
That's another one you can do. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say, I do remember my speaker at my graduation from the University of Arizona, and the reason is because it was Governor Evan Meacham. And yeah, just want to throw that out there. And also, we were talking about sacrificing for something you really believe. When Ulysses Grant left the army after the Mexican War and was temporarily going through a bit of poverty, he let his slave go free. And the thing is, the man that was there that signed the papers that he signed said that, you could sell him and make a lot of money and help your poverty situation. And his response was, somehow I just don't feel that's right. But just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah. Wow, that's a cool story. I didn't know. Your history gifts help us. Oh, here's...
Well, I've got photovoltaic cells, so I'm not using, and also I have solar hot water, so I don't use any fossil fuels in the summertime. Have a plug-in car, and unless I need to go to Tucson, I don't use any fossil fuels.
Wow, that's great. Oh, over here. Oh, okay. You've got someone there, and then Becky. Someone over there? Akita.
My way of helping to heal the world is I share veggies
And eggs.
and eggs.
And we are grateful. Thank you. And wisdom about plants.
We have a dove house, and I think it's our 4th nesting this year, and all the babies have flown the coop.
Oh, we need to do that. They keep building nests that fall. Oh, yeah.
Trees. Encourage the growth of trees and plant trees. There's so many positives. And as long as you don't plant salt cedars, there's no negatives out here in the desert with trees. They're good for critters, they're good for people, they're good for shade, they're good for the climate.
Yeah.
It's real simple.
Yeah.
And doesn't take much effort on the person's part. Once the tree is growing, just leave it alone. Water it once in a while. It's a win-win-win all the way.
All around me are non-native trees and lots of birds loving them. So I guess it doesn't always matter what you plant. Yeah.
Hi. We have made a sole effort to have all LED lights in our house to reduce our electricity. Make sure I unplug everything that I can unplug too, so I don't leave that in there. Our condominium just took out the electric lights in our area, the big poles that were costing a lot more money this year too, and they put in solar lights. So it's darker and you have more visibility of the night sky. But so our walkway is now a little bit darker, so we put in some more solar lights there so we could get from our front door to the street. So we have a lot of solar, so that's what we're trying to do.
Well, I think, as Django said, we're doing the backyards. Personally, I'm one of those people that used to do the dishes and have the water running. And I think about it now and I turn it off, and I don't do it that way. Of course, I have a dishwasher now, so supposedly that's better, but I don't know. Anyway, the other things, I'm doing art again. And my doctor changed some of my medications around, and so I'm also not hopeless anymore, which is really great because it's hard to keep going when you know. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing.
Those are important. Oh, here's Bruce.
My granddaughter just graduated from high school in Yelm, Washington. Anyone ever heard of Yelm, Washington? It's quite popular. But anyway, so I said to David, my son, I said, so what's Madison's plans? And she's going to the University of Washington in Bellingham. And I said, what's she studying? He said, environmental studies.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'll tell you what. I got really proud on that. So I don't know if it came down from me, but at least my granddaughter is proceeding in that vein. So I'm real proud.
My other son is at ASU, where a lot of people study sustainability and environmental studies. And under Trump, it's been a little difficult. So she's brave, too. And wonderful. I'm grateful.
I'm trying to be nice to all my Trump-loving friends and remember that they bring something to the table and they're people too. So that's how I'm trying to help.
I have a little saucer outside filled with marbles and filled with a little water, so that insects can get a nice little drink in the desert and not worry about drowning in a puddle or a pool.
I heard that Bird Baylor always had her door open, and that when migrants came through, they could find water and food and a little bit of money. She never felt like she was robbed. Some narco traffickers came through one day, and she did invite them to leave with her gun. But, you know, the same idea of changing our world. And I want to thank all of you who help our Emergency Assistance Fund. It does a little bit every month for people who can't pay a utility. We had a person come in this month who's just started working at Amazon, but needed boots. And very often it is the working poor who are just getting set up who need the help. They can only come every 6 months. I try to be firm about that. So we're not becoming someone's safety net as much as I wish we could. But it gets discouraging when I feel like I don't have enough to give. And then I talk with my progressive pastors, and the 2 young women at Sierra Methodist are gathering a lot of resources, a lot of information. So that's really helpful and encouraging. And when someone came in this last time looking for clothes, I could send them to the Methodist Church for that. All right. Thank you.
As Reverend Tina extinguishes the chalice, hear these words from Jean M. Olson. May you be brave enough to expose your aching woundedness and reveal your vulnerability. May you speak your deepest truths, knowing that they will change as you do. May you sing the music within you, composing your own melody, playing your song with all your heart. May you draw, paint, sculpt, and sew, showing your world, the world your vision. May you write letters, poetry, biography, slogans, graffiti, the great novel, laying bare your words to love and hate. May you love even though your heart breaks again and again. And until the end of your days, may your life be filled with possibilities and courage.